So we're going to try and shield our bedroom from Wi-Fi routers from neighbours, from 5G, 3G masts in the road, from the smart meters, from the water meters, from the police Tetra system, from all of the artificial broadcasts which we're being bombarded with 24 hours a day. We're going to start with the bedroom, at least get 8 hours sleep without this stuff stressing our bodies. Give us a bit of time for recovery. Now, to block electromagnetic signals, a guy called Michael Faraday came up with something called the Faraday cage quite a long time ago. And it's a 6-sided metal box. It can either be solid metal or it can be a metal mesh. And inside this box, there are no radio signals. They can't pass through it. They get trapped on the outside of the box. So inside the box, there's no signal on your phone, no 5G, no 4G, no TV, nothing. But obviously, you don't want to live inside a metal box or a cage. So what we're going to do with the bedroom is we're going to try and find a way to create this metal cage in the bedroom without actually being able to see the metal cage. So hopefully it will just look like a normal bedroom when we've finished, but it will actually be a 6-sided metal cage. Now the holes in the mesh have to be smaller than the wavelength you want to block. So you can look up wavelength sizes online. So, if you want to block 2.4 gigahertz or you want to block 5 gigahertz, you can actually look online how long those wavelengths are. But 5G is millimeter wave, so a solid kind of box really would be the best for that, or the holes no bigger than 0.5 millimeter. So that's what we're going to do. Let's see if we can get that sorted out. So I'm never one for advertising or plugging companies, but I have to mention these people because I started buying the products to shield the bedroom in the house from these people. And I did admittedly buy a few other products from other suppliers, but I really love this company. They got great prices. They delivery is good. The logistics and the updates, emails, everything. It's all quick and easy. And I ran into some complications when I was using this shielding paint, this graphite paint. I contacted the people who made it, and they left me very, very confused with a list of paints which you can paint over the top of it, because you can't just leave this stuff on the wall. Once you've painted it on the wall, you got to paint over it because it kind of rubs off on your fingers. It looks like pencil lead, all over your fingers when you rub it. So you've got to seal it up with something. And the company that make it, they gave me this list of sort of types of paint which no one seemed to have ever heard of. And I called these people and they basically gave me the heads up that you can paint over this stuff with anything, with gloss, with oil-based, with water-based paints. And so we did that, and we got a great result. So I was really, really grateful to them. They also, I needed some netting for the curtains, some sort of shielding netting I decided on in the end to hang over the windows. And they sell this stuff, by the meter. But they very kindly actually hemmed it and put in the loop as well, so that I could hang it, and it just looked fantastic when it turned up. So I really, don't normally plug people, but emf-protection.co.uk, that I would use these people. They really are very knowledgeable, and they got a great setup. Okay, so what we've done so far is we have prepared the walls and filled any gaps in, taken the plug sockets off the wall and the light switches, and we have made sure that that's painted around there as well, and it's sealed. So all this crumbly stuff has to have PVA glue in it, and then a sealer and an emulsion on the top. And we've repaired parts of the wall as well. Gone over that with a watered down emulsion and PVA solution. The door's been fully stripped, and we've used an acrylic based wood primer on the inside of the door. The outside of the door we've just left as wood, and all the skirting as well. This has all been stripped with a heat gun, and it's been repainted with a water-based acrylic primer, and of course all of the door frame as well. That's been stripped out and painted with an acrylic-based, water-based wood primer. And then what we've done is we've basically gone around the whole lot with a coating of GK5, which is basically a sort of primer sealer undercoat for the shielding paint. And the radiator, we just rubbed this down with a wire brush and given that a coat of acrylic based primer and a coat of GK5 over the top. So I'm going to have a look at the radiation levels in here at the minute. So it seems to be sitting around 0.1 volts per metre. There's some little peaks coming from, probably from the neighbours. That constant high pitched whine in the background you can hear is the cell tower, which is probably about 150 metres away. That ticking noise is someone's router, someone's Wi-Fi. So we've got 0.3 volts per metre in this corner. So we've put our first coat of YShield paint on. We've gone right behind the radiator with a thin roller. All down the skirting behind the sockets, and we've also run grounding tape along the ceiling, all down the walls, which we're just painting over with a second coat now. So all the walls are connected. We've connected the skirting boards to the walls by running a little bit of tape over each skirting board and up onto the wall. And we're just painting over that with the second coat now, so this grounding tape will disappear, and it runs up into the back of the socket here, where we're going to put our grounding plate. So you can just about see it there. I've painted over it. It basically runs all the way around the bottom of the room, and it also on each skirting board there's a piece going up connecting the skirting boards. We've got a strip across the ceiling, down and around the door as well. So basically, if there's any cracks in these walls or ceilings in the future, then it'll all still stay grounded and earthed. So we're just getting on with the second coat now. Okay, so we've got our two coats of YShield paint all the way from the ceiling all the way around to the floor, and we've got our shielding tape, our grounding tape, which has been run all the way around the room, and we're going to ground into the back of this socket here where we've let the tape out. It's not recommended by YShield to paint behind the sockets or behind the light fittings because the paint is conductive, but we are going to earth it, and we're going to make sure that there's no way that any cable can touch that and give it an electric charge. and the RCD on the fuse box downstairs should switch anyway. But the reason we've done it is because, if you can see, we've basically got most of the room covered now. If I switch on this meter, you'll see that it hasn't actually made a lot of difference to the levels of radiation in here. And the reason is, it's about the same as it was. And the reason is because electromagnetic waves, radio waves, behave really in the way that, as they're named, they are waves. They behave like waves of water. And so if you imagine trying to keep water out of here, if we were underwater, there'd be loads of it pouring in the window, and there'd be loads of it pouring in the door, and there'd be loads of it coming through the gaps in the floorboards. And that's exactly how radio frequency waves or electromagnetic waves work. So the room has to be completely sealed. So tomorrow we're going to put the door back on, and we're going to try and deal with the window as well. There's a few options for that which I'm going to look at, but basically you'll find that once the room is completely sealed, once we've created basically like a Faraday cage in the room, and as you can see, I've even completely sealed off this opening here to the fireplace with this is an aluminium mesh which has been taped on with a shielding tape and then painted around. So what we're aiming to do is basically create a radio magnetic proof box, which is going to mean basically having it completely sealed all the way around. So we're going to deal with the floor, we're going to deal with the window, and we're going to deal with that doorway, and then we should see some pretty decent drops in the level of radio frequency that we've got in here. But as you can see at the minute, I mean, it is slightly better. We're getting we're getting 0.2 on occasion, but as you can see, it's not made really much of a difference. There you go, look, it's flashing on the green there, 0.2. So it has dropped it a little bit, but nothing much happened yet, which is what I expected. Okay, so we've done our 2 coats of the shielding paint, and we've painted over it, so we've got a white emulsion on the ceiling, and we've gone for a graphite grey gunmetal black for the walls. Taken the time to put a bit of cornice here as well. That was quite cheap to do, but basically, and we've glossed over the skirting boards and the door. Now, because we're trying to create a completely sealed Faraday cage in effect, what we've done when we wired back in the electrics is we've gone for metal backed and metal front sockets. Obviously these have to be earthed, and we've done the same with the light switch, and we've not only earthed the light switch, because the light switch isn't on the RCD, so we've not only earthed the light switch, the back and the front to the earth, but we've also earthed the socket here, the back plate of the socket, to the conductive paint on the wall, using some of the shielding tape that we bought, the conductive shielding tape. So this socket here, again, as you can see, it's earthed. You can see a couple of earth wires here coming through the wall. So I've actually got a shielding plate behind there. It's basically made out of a piece of copper, and that shielding plate takes, you remember we ran some shielding tape, we've got it all over the room and all over the skirting boards, but it runs up here and into the back of the socket. And then what we've done is we've clamped the shielding tape to this piece of copper by folding it in half and putting a bolt through it with a couple of washers, and then with some earth wire coming out of here. So the shielding plate behind there connected to the tape, which is connected to the wall, and then that goes to the earth, and then the front and back plates are also earthed. And the reason we've gone for metal sockets and metal covers is because obviously we want to block the RF radiation. Because it's like water, electromagnetic smog is like water, it'll come through any gap. So if you've got a plastic socket here, it'll just fly through the back of the socket, no problem at all. So I've also run another piece of tape down here which I've just left, and that is what we're going to connect to the earthing for the floor. So the next job to do is the floor, and then once we've done the floor we need to do the window, and then we should have a completely sealed box and we can take some new readings, see what we get. So that's where we're at the minute. Okay, so we've cleaned up, we've got our room clean, we've got the plug sockets fitted, and we've tested them. The earth works on the RCD, so they trip if there's any power to the metal chassis, which is great. And now what we're going to do is we've got some of this 5 kilogram per meter squared, very high density vinyl, and I'm going to just throw some of this down over the wood floor before we put the block copper, which is the copper sheeting, which is going to give us the sixth side of our cube. And then basically that will be the almost the Faraday cage completed, apart from this big window here, which we're going to have to deal with. So we'll come on to that after the floor. So I'm going to get this vinyl down now. Okay, so here we are. We've got the acoustic rubber laid down. So it's going to do a couple of things. That is going to, obviously it will add a little bit of sound protection, probably not a lot, but a little bit of soundproofing. But it'll also raise up, because there's a little gap in some places underneath the skirting boards between the skirting and the floor. I mean, in most places the skirting touches the floor, but there are some odd gaps. So this rubber just raises it up a couple of millimeters. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lay the block copper, the copper sheeting, over the top. And that's going to create the 6 sides then. All of the ceiling, the walls, and the floor are going to be completely shielded, basically a Faraday cage. We've dealt with behind the light sockets, behind the radiator itself. The only way in for the radiation is through the window. So we're going to deal with the window last, but next up is to lay the copper on the floor. So with the block copper, what we want to do is, because we're trying to make a sealed metallic cage around the whole room. It's difficult to see here because the room's painted black, but basically we've gone right up to the edges of the skirting board, and we've folded this block copper over and butted it up against the skirting board, so there's no gap whatsoever. And we've run that all the way along and right up to the other wall here, where we've done the same thing, and we've butted it right up to everything so that there are no gaps, and we just staple it down. The next sheet we're going to overlap slightly here and lay the next one down, and then the last one. Okay, the block copper is down. We've covered the whole floor, and we've made sure that we've
butted it up really well against the skirting, so there's no gap between the skirting and the floor. So we've almost got a sealed box. I haven't dealt with the window yet, but I've got a piece of block copper which was left over. Now it isn't covering the window properly, you can still see the plastic frame around it. So we can't really tell whether we've done the job yet, but if I switch the meter on, we're now getting a much better result, and that should improve further when we deal with the window properly. Let me see if I can get this phone to focus in on that. Not very well, but it's reading 0.2 microvolts.
You know, to get your phone focused, Daddy.
0.1 to 0.2. So hopefully we'll get that down even further when we've dealt properly with the window, but I mean, that's a result. That's a huge reduction there. So I'm well pleased already with that, but let's see where we go with the window. Okay, so we've got all the copper floor down now, and what we've done, we've got some wooden floor too, some cladding. I'll explain that in a second, but what we've done is we've actually earthed, using this YShield earthing strap, all of these separate sheets of copper that run across the floor together so that they're all earthed. And then what we've done is we've run the earthing strap up here into the wall, and you can't really see it because it's been painted over now, but it connects to the earthing tape, the metallic tape, which is connected to the earth of the back of this plug socket. So basically all of these sheets of copper have been connected together and earthed into the plug socket. Now the cladding is because we're going to put a wood floor down. I mean, you could put carpet, but I didn't really like the idea of you're going to have to put carpet rails around the room, and I didn't like the idea of nails going through the copper. I want to keep it all as sealed as possible, so I thought I'll lay some wood on it. But the wooden floors are quite thick. They're about 15 mil thick, and you're going to have a step here when you come out of the room. So I got the thinnest stuff I could, which was cladding, and it's cheap as well. So if this is spruce, we're going to just lay this spruce over. Then we're going to deal with the window, and then we'll take measurements of the radiation again. But we're nearly done. Okay, so we've got the floor finished, and all we've really got to deal with now in here is the window. I've built a wardrobe as well out of the cladding that I used for the floor. I had a few packs left over, so knocked up a wardrobe. But anyway, the real problem here now is the window, and I've been umming and ahhing about this for some time. Obviously we want to seal it, so the best thing to do would be to have some sort of shutters or wooden door which closed over it. But then I thought to myself, well, sometimes you're going to want some light coming in the room, and you're still going to want to block the Wi-Fi and the other radio signals coming through. So what I decided to do was get some shielding netting, and they do different kinds of shielding netting. There's one which sounds great, which is called YShield, and they do ultra, this, that and the other. But I watched some tests of the different kinds of netting, and the YShield netting is pretty poor at blocking EMF. So what I've decided to go for is something called BlocSilver, which I've just received today. And this is like a netting which is made out of silver fabric. And what we're going to do is we're going to hang it as close to the window as we can. And then we're going to put a blind up over the top. And then I'm going to put a pelmet over the top of the window, which is going to be also painted with the RF blocking paint. So I'll show you how that all works, and then when it's done, we'll do some tests with the meter and find out exactly how much radiation we've managed to block in this room when we're done. So we're getting there. I've just sort of been umming and ahhing about the window, but I think I've got a plan. Let's see how it works out. Okay, so I've just hung the netting just quickly over the window. It's quite difficult to see it, but here it is. It still allows the light in. And I haven't finished here yet, so we haven't got definitive results yet, because I'm going to also put a shielded pelmet over the top there, and I might adjust that a little bit. But we're getting some pretty encouraging results on the meter at the minute. It's almost reading nothing at all, which is fantastic. So let's see if we can get that down to nothing. So here we go. Okay, so this is our pelmet that we've knocked up. So on one side it's painted with white paint, and on the other side we've painted it with the anti-shielding paint. And we're going to put that at the top of the window there to offer some more EMF protection around the sort of gaps between the shielding and the wall. Okay, so we've got our pelmet up, and we've got our shielding fabric hanging over the window, the BlocSilver, and we've got a blind hanging as well, which we can drop down, a blackout blind. Right, let's do some readings. So if I shut the door, and there we have it. Complete silence on the meter. That is a result, I would say. There we have it. Nothing being picked up on. This is an extremely sensitive piece of kit as well. So that is, I'm well pleased with that. Well pleased with that. We have an EMF sealed Faraday box room.